Hey everyone, it's Melanie and
Anthony
with 4 on 5th Cigars, and today we're going to talk about the #1 question we're asked almost every single day at the shop. What is that?
Is your wife available? Which is not true.
Stop.
She's not available. One thing that we're asked at the shop is, how does your beard look that great, and how do I get it there?
4on5th.com. And
So one time when our family's not like your normal family, we're like crazy. And I feed on it. Hey everyone.
Hey guys.
Okay, so I know you guys all thought it was how to grow a beard is the #1 question we get asked.
Mm-hmm.
But unfortunately, it's #2.
Yep.
And the #3 question is your wife available?
Yep. Followed by #4, and that is, who's the girl with big boobs? That's Gabby.
Yeah, Gabby's the girl with big boobs. It's not me.
Yep.
He wouldn't. Well, Anthony does want to buy the big boobs, but he's like, should I invest in them? Should I not?
Flight risk. Can't do it.
So.
Can't do it.
Yes, so the #1 question we are asked, people come into the shop and they're looking for cigars, and what do they say, honey? What do they say?
Do you know if you have any Cubans?
Well, I don't know. Do we?
We don't.
We don't have Cubans.
We don't have Cubans.
So I didn't know that.
Well, now you know.
Anthony and I are going to light up a cigar, and we're going to regroup.
Yeah, we're going to time it out.
Time out, people.
I'll grow my beard a little bit more by just going...
And I'm going to check if I'm available, and we'll be right back.
Yep, we're going to update our status.
I decided to light up La Flor de Cano Casanova. It's an exclusivo to Italy, and it's actually a Cuban cigar. So I'm excited to smoke this one.
And I'm smoking a Plasencia Almafuerte, like we talked about earlier, because I like the flavor on it. It's tasty. It's got kind of some deep notes to it right now. A little bit of an espresso flavor. And it's, I'd say it's medium body starting off. So I'm excited to see where this is
Okay, so all jokes aside, I wanted to bring up why we can't get get Cuban cigars in America or in the U.S. And I know many people thought by now, especially with Obama visiting Cuba, if you guys remember those pictures, that we would be able to get Cuban cigars. So we're going to share our thoughts and maybe some of the history, and we'll give a little information about Cuban tobacco, and maybe we'll do another video about that. So what do you want to say?
Well, you put a lot on my plate, and I didn't know this topic going into it, so...
I love doing that to you.
I know. I'm just going to say...
But he is really smart. He's been to all the factories. The only place you haven't really been is Cuba.
Yeah.
I could see him going there.
I can see myself going there. So, I mean, essentially a lot of people know that we've had an embargo with Cuba for a long time.
So that happened during JFK's time, right?
During JFK's time in the early 1960s. The thing about the Cuban embargo, and one of the things that obviously was kind of banned in that embargo, was the importation of Cuban cigars to the U.S.
And was it also rum? Cuban rum?
There are a lot of things on the list at that time. But Cuban cigars is definitely one of the most romanticized elements that have stayed, you know, in people's minds. It's still a very sought after cigar, and because of that, people have really kind of prized Cuban cigars. You know, it's all about what you can't have, and that makes it, you know, more exciting when you get it sometimes. Mm-hmm. But you get a lot of people today who still ask you, once again, you know, if you can get a Cuban cigar in the U.S. Well, the embargo still exists, and even though, you know, Obama went over there and we had some discussions as to the possibilities of lifting the embargo and what that would look like, it still hasn't been lifted. And if anything, with the current regime, with the Trump regime, it doesn't look likely that they're going to lighten it up any. In fact, they might kind of wind back the clock and tighten some of it up again. Mm-hmm. So the short answer is that you're not allowed to have access to them right now, as far as buying them in the U.S. Now, that's not to say that if you went down there, you can't bring them back. One of the things that did get loosened up a bit was that if you went down there, you can bring back Cubans to the U.S. for your own personal consumption. Now they limit the number that you can bring in.
It's like up to $1,000, or I'm pretty sure it's something like that.
It's right around there. And what Mel's going to do is when she does the edit on this video, she's going to actually put the right number of what you can bring back. And there's a dollar amount, and there's also like a stick amount. So essentially, you know, we'll have both of those facts below.
Thanks,
so right
honey.
now I'm pointing. Mel's going to put that right here.
Yeah, I don't know if I'll do that.
Well, hey, you put me on the spot with, oh, he knows everything about Cuba. I don't. I know that I like a Cuban sandwich. You know, I like
what is a
Cuba Libre.
What's a Cuba Libre?
Cuba Libre is a rum and coke.
A rum and coke? That's what it is?
Uh-huh.
That's all it is?
Yeah.
Oh.
I like a mojito, although it makes me like break out sometimes.
I didn't know a mojito was from Cuba. See, I learn something new every day. Thanks, sweetie.
Well, these are just things you think about, you know.
He's so smart. Okay. So,
but here's what I want to say.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
Yeah. Men are talking now. I'm just kidding. That's horrible. That's not true. Here's what I really want to say about the Cuban thing.
Typical Cuban husband.
Typical Cuban husband. Yeah. The thing that I'd like to say, though, is that the quality of production is just not there. So people get super hyped about this stuff, and the capabilities to really recreate these glory days of Cuba aren't there. And that's because there's already a massive toll on what they can produce. Cuba's not that big of a place, and the land that they have for actual growing isn't that vast. So when you tie those two together and you put it with the demand, especially with the rise in the Chinese market and their consumption of it, there's really far more demand than there is actual quality product available in the market. So this has created quite a few things. So when guys say Cubans don't taste as good as they used to, there is a lot of truth in that. And the reason why is that in your normal
This one
gross...
though is actually tasting one of the, like a better Cuban that I've had. I'm sorry to interrupt you. This is actually tasting very good.
Yeah, and I'm not saying you can't.
Because it's hit or miss, to be honest.
It's far more of a Russian roulette game of what's going to be good than, you know, what's going to be great.
Yeah, and unfortunately you spend a lot of money.
Yeah. But the thing that I always tell customers, and that I've been a firm believer in for a while, is that when you think about tobacco growth cycles, like if you go to Nicaragua, Dominican Republic, Honduras, you know, any of the places that grow tobacco, and you spend time on the farms, one of the things that they always show you, especially if you go down during the right time of year, is that in between tobacco growths, they often will plant beans or some other vegetable to re-nutrient or to essentially kind of bring back rich content to the soil. And so at the end of that bean growing season or whatever other item that they decide to grow in the dirt at that time, it gets mulched back in, it re-nutrient.
No. Oh my gosh.
Interesting. Anyway, essentially it puts all the good stuff back in the ground, and it creates for a better tobacco crop. And it also keeps a consistency there because you're getting this high level of craft every year out of your tobacco plants when they can have the right conditions to grow in. Cuba, on the other hand, because of the amount of pressure they have to produce, they just continue to put wave after wave of tobacco into the earth. Now, there might be some places in Cuba that actually, you know, slow their cycles down, but a large part and a large amount of that land is actually dedicated to continuing to do cycle after cycle, which strips the land of its nutrients. So your quality of production is going to go down. And then the other thing that's a quality production issue is the people aren't getting paid to care.
They deserve to be paid, but they're not treated like they should be. And
no,
that's a huge thing for me.
In a communist regime, there is no incentive, there is no incentivizing of the people to produce a high quality product. So you've got a couple of those issues that really kind of collide to make Cuban tobacco not as good as it once was. Now, once again, like Mel said, there are some exceptional Cubans that come to the market. I would say they're few and far between, and there is no real consistency value there. But there are people that are far more versed in it that might point out that there are certain exceptions to that rule. Yeah, I think, you know, the long and short of the video is that Cubans are not something that are widely available in the U.S. I mean, they're not going to be widely available in the U.S. anytime soon. There are plenty of people whose secondary gray market, black market,
and
them here.
Be careful because you might spend a lot of money and it could be absolutely fake.
Yeah, figuring out the authenticity of them is a pain in the butt. There's so many different things here and there. Counterfeiters are getting better all the time. You know, I think the message that we would like to impart out there and what we always try to talk about in our humidor is that there are a lot of great Dominican, Nicaraguan, Honduran cigars that are really simply fantastic. That the quality's better, the care selection, the craftsmanship, everything about the production of it is just so much better than what the Cuban market has to offer. Now, once again, there are some great Cubans, not going to fight that.
Yeah.
But I think, if you're going into a cigar store in America especially, find the good stuff that the Dominican and Nicaraguan and all these other places have to offer.
But when you walk into a cigar shop, if you want to ask it, you can. But most likely, if you're in America, in the United States, they will not have Cuban cigars.
Nope.
It's illegal.
No Cubans.
And check out.
Yes, this beard is real.
I am not available yet.
Check that Facebook status, guys. Keep looking.
Gabby's boobs are real. And Ben does play Pokemon, and he is in his 30s.
Yeah, both are true.
All right, guys. Have a wonderful day.
So this is Anthony.
And Melanie.
And this is Ford on Fifth.
In the ATL, that's my homeboy. Watch your back if you're gonna walk alone, boy.